The Reliability Hero podcast is proudly brought to you by the mainstream community. We'll have conversations with maintenance and reliability practitioners just like you. People who literally make stuff work on an industrial scale and also keep economies moving. So why Hero? Because asset management tamely describes the risky and important work you do, where a single misstep can cost millions of dollars and lives. And because few things excite you more than making equipment and machines do more than they were ever designed to do. Faster, safer, longer, and more efficiently. I'm Andrew Dado. Welcome to the Reliability Hero podcast. This time on Reliability Hero, Rob Kalwarowsky. He is a senior reliability engineer. He was a Canadian rep for their water polo team for a while, and he's also a leadership expert, a psychological safety expert, mental health person, and he's a podcaster. So he does just about everything, and we're lucky to have him today.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. And should I call you Australian Andrew if you're calling me Canadian Rob?
You are Canadian, Rob. Look, I just explained that. Rob spoke beautifully at the mainstream conference this year, and I made that terrible mistake when I met him just before he started speaking and said, "Whereabouts in America are you from?" And he went, "Canada." So, hey, listen, again, I apologise.
No, I won't hold it against you. It's all right.
All right. Hey, we've got a fair bit of ground to cover today. You've got a terrific story that you did share at Mainstream. Let's start at the start, though. What was your beginning in maintenance?
Totally. So, yeah, after college, I got a job as a reliability engineer at a coal mine. So I was out in the Rocky Mountains in Western Canada. And yeah, I worked there for about 2.5 years, doing a lot of work on the haul trucks. And then I moved out to Edmonton and got a job basically as a reliability consultant. So I was doing servicing everything from the Arctic Circle, gold mines, manufacturing plants, chemical plants, power plants, basically the whole entire range of Canada.
Yeah, wow.
all the places you don't want to go.
Well, it's just funny you say that. It feels like all the places that I would like to go.
It depends how small towns you like, I guess.
Oh, okay. Is it what you expected when like leaving college and going into that work? Is that where you thought you were going to head up?
No, it wasn't really. Like, I'm from a city. It's about I'm from Ottawa. It's about 1 million people. I went to college in Boston. There, I don't know, a few million people. I never thought that I would move to a town of 2,500 people and work for a coal mine. It was never really something that I thought about. It was just, it just sort of happened, I guess.
Okay, we see movies about small coal mining towns. They're usually bleak. They're usually ridden with trouble of some social sort. Was that your experience as well, or is that a movie thing?
Well, they exist for sure.
Okay.
The one I was in, though, is a beautiful town. It's actually probably the number 2 skiing place in Canada behind Whistler.
Okay.
Actually, weirdly enough, tons of Australian people there.
Okay. So it must have been a great place.
It was so weird. It was like this small town, right? And I started going to the grocery store and like the people at the checkout were Australian. And then my swim coach was a guy who got 8th place in the Sydney tryouts for the 2000 Olympics.
Wow.
And I was like, this is wild. Like I'd only met one Australian at the time in my whole life in college.
And so you've heard the phrase small world, but gee whiz, it's a really small world.
Yeah.
Well, at this time, were you representing Canada in water polo, or was that previously?
Yeah, that was before college. Yeah, that was when I was basically between 15 and 18.
Okay. So how did that set you up for the rest of your working life, or did it at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that, like, I started playing water polo at 9. I started really getting serious about it maybe around 11. I was basically training every day. Um, and then at the peak, I was training 25 hours a week.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, what was one of the reasons I got into MIT, and I played there for 4 years. And yeah, and then after I graduated, I played it like a little bit after college, but then I moved out to the small town. It didn't exist out there.
Okay. Hey, guys, where's the pool? Um, how did that set up your work ethic for now?
I mean, it's absolutely shaped me for who I am. And it's also in a way, it's also hurt me. Um, and I talked about this at the keynote, but it's like I started to craft my identity very young as the hardworking guy who gets results.
Okay.
And that worked for me in the pool. It worked in the classroom. And then when I moved out to my job, it worked in a sense that I got results. I saved the company, tens of millions of dollars, but didn't work in a sense that my manager was unable to provide the environment that I needed. In one word, we'll call him an asshole boss.
Okay.
And yeah, it led to the mental health struggles that I had, that I, recently have started to heal myself from.
Okay. It's interesting because you would think that if someone comes into an organization, in fact, I think if anyone who is a hardworking person who gets results, that's the person you want as part of your life, actually, not just your team or your business. But, I'd love to be surrounded by people who actually do what they say they're going to do it well, and and achieve. Whether it's catching sandworms when you're fishing or baiting you, whatever it is, right? So how did it go wrong? What happened?
So this is actually a common thing that you see a lot in reliability. Is folks, they call it pushing a boulder up a mountain, and they're trying to make people change. And basically, our industry is very much, we've always done it this way. Don't rock the boat, just status quo is safe. And even though we don't really get great results, like for the most part, it's very much just kind of toe the line and don't worry too much about it. And we're allowed to change and evolve, but it's very small. And I think that that's the part is, we as a community, in the maintenance community, we need to learn how to lead and how to engage with other people, because that's really how you can make a difference. Otherwise, You're just going to continue this cycle of like, oh, let's try a new maintenance program. Oh, well, that lasted 6 months, and then we decided we're not going to do it because it didn't really work.
But is part of that problem not putting the maintenance program in, the new program in properly, or is it, as I've heard from a couple of other people in this podcast and other episodes, that you're actually doing the same thing, you're just calling it something different, and that the workforce actually, they know this, and they're like, listen, I'm not buying in because it's just this it's semantics almost.
Yeah, that depends on who it is, I think.
Okay.
Like some folks who actually, did the research or learned the stuff, you can make changes to maintenance programs for sure, for the better. There are other people who go to a conference, listen to a talk, and go, I'm going to overhaul it all. And then it basically is the same thing you started with.
Okay. You're doing lots of work in leadership now. What are the key parts of leadership in your mind?
Totally. I mean, now I don't work in maintenance at all. I'm a full-time leadership coach. And basically where we start everyone is, the first is the self-awareness and emotional intelligence pieces. And it's really to do the deeper work on yourself before you can take it out on other people. And I think it's a hugely important point, because most leaders, they're not great. And like 2/3 of leaders are considered actively or passively toxic. And it's really
2/3.
Correct. That's right.
2/3 of leaders are actively or passively toxic.
Correct.
That's horrifying.
It is. It is absolutely. I mean, and it's not like there's 5.5% of them that are like the people who yell, jump up and down and swear at you and that kind of thing. And those folks are kind of a lost cause. But basically like 60% of leaders are toxic, but some of them don't know it, or some of them would actually change. It's just they haven't learned leadership.
Okay.
And it's not their fault. Like we turn on the TV, we watch coaches yell and scream at us. We watch, the movies where the boss is like yelling and screaming at their people, right? It's like, our politicians are doing it now too.
Yeah. And then you've got the classic police captain going, "Hey, no, give me your gun and your badge." Every Lethal Weapon film.
That's right. And so that's the big thing, right? It's opening up the self-awareness so folks can actually sort of understand their own behavior and where it comes from in their mindset. And then once they can see that, it becomes, better.
So can I make an assumption that you don't think that leadership is it's not a natural state of mind, it's a learnt state of mind?
Correct. I mean, obviously there are folks who everyone's a leader in their own way, right? So it's not like I'm going to stand up here and be like, oh, I could be Obama, right? Or Winston Churchill, right? Like, it's like, that's not it. But I can be me, and the people that I want to impact will gravitate towards my leadership style.
Okay. So how important is it to maintain some of yourself in your leadership style?
100%. That's what leadership, in my opinion, starts with. If you don't know who you truly are, you're missing out on such a huge impact that you can have.
Okay. Where did you learn about leadership?
Yeah, I started working with a leadership coach in 2019, and that helped me a phenomenal amount in terms of understanding the nuts and bolts of leadership. I took some courses on trust and psych safety. I took the Brene Brown course on Dare to Lead. And I found actually the most impactful thing for me was going to therapy and doing the deeper self work.
Okay. Now, is that going to work for everyone?
Therapy, everyone should go to therapy, yes. Seriously, you should. It's not and this is, we can draw this parallel to maintenance. It doesn't have to be a reactive, I'm depressed, therefore I go to therapy, or I have anxiety, therefore I go to therapy. We can do this in a proactive way, is I want to get better and more effective, so I go to therapy.
Okay. Your experience, which you talked about at the Mainstream conference, where you were pushed to a point where you really questioned your place on the planet. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah.
And and the lead up to that as well?
Totally. And so basically for me, it was a loss of identity, right? And we talked about how I identified as the hardworking guy who gets results. And at work, I was in a position where I couldn't really get validated for the results I was getting. And this was something that I did get as a kid. My coach validated me. My teachers validated me. My parents validated me. Like, that was a thing. And when you stop getting that, it leaves you questioning who you truly are. And that led to, depression and basically me not understanding like what the purpose is of all of this.
Okay.
And then that's not a far spiral from, do I even want to continue being on this planet anymore if I don't know who I am or why I'm here?
Okay. On that question of validation at work, I wonder how many people actually do get validation. I wonder how normal that is. Is this, I mean, regardless of where you work and how you work, most of the time you just turn up, do your job, leave, and no one says anything. So, so I'm guessing that's the norm as opposed to the extraordinary situation.
Absolutely. Right. And that's one of the reasons why only a third of leaders are good. Right.
Okay.
But the other side of it too is the deeper self work. Is if you can understand who you truly are, then you don't need the validation to come from outside. Like, it's nice, but it's not catastrophic if it doesn't come.
Okay. But then most of us have probably grown up not getting that validation. So is that just a learnt resilience behavior then, that if we're just, life is life and work is work and on you go, we're not really missing what you're getting because we've probably never actually understood it in the first place anyway?
I bet you have, though.
I bet I have, but I'm talking in no. I know I have, but I'm saying I'm guessing there's a whole stack of people who they just middle of the road, go to school, do the whole thing, and go to work, and that's the experience, and so that's the normal experience, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? Because folks, the leaders I work with now, they are, I mean, they're on the spectrum of whatever you want to call it, from like normal folks to high achievers, right?
Yeah.
And the problems are very similar because it really comes all down to, what do I believe about me? And what did the environment that I grew up in lead me to believe about me? And everybody, I bet you almost everybody listening has had a sense at one point that they were an imposter or they didn't belong. And that's, they say 75% of people experience that. I think it's higher, but that's a common thing, right? And it's like, that's a belief about you.
Yeah. But Rob, isn't that sort of? I'd say it's probably. I have no idea. I have no psychological training or I have no training in anything, but an arts degree. But isn't that the case that with everyone is that we get into situations, we don't really know what we're doing. We fudge our way through. So this whole impossible, you go home and your partner says, how'd you go? And you go, holy crap. Whoa, I slid through again, so this imposter syndrome, is it just a matter that, it caught up on you, but it's for the rest of us, or for many of us, it doesn't. We just keep flying on through that until we work out what we're doing, and then you can go, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing, and actually mean it.
There's a bit of both. So
Okay.
some folks, that belief prevents them from actually going out and doing.
Okay.
And that's the folks usually that walk into my door now is, I want to get this promotion, but yet I'm not really working hard for it, and I don't know why. I literally had a call with someone like that a few hours ago.
Okay. And so what's the answer to that? I mean, I know there's no quick answer, but what's the short sense of that?
Yeah, the reasons that's the deeper work, but it's basically is understanding and starting to be aware of how you feel, which is going to illuminate those beliefs that you have about yourself. And then it's digging into your mindset and architecting a mindset that allows you to say, yeah, I've never done this job before, but I have this skill, this skill, this skill. I can learn anything. I've done all these hard things, and let's go for it.
Okay. So it's actually having so what you're talking about is having a sense of belief and actually deserving that sense of belief.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go back to that notion of the 2/3 toxic bosses. How does that mindset change in a leadership sense? So if you're in the field and you're getting, pushed around either physically or verbally or emotionally, spiritually, how do you instigate change within your organization? Because it's quite hard to, as you say, push that boulder up the hill.
Totally. Yeah. For me, I mean, all of that starts with it's a version of empathy and it's a version of understanding the psychology of people. And a lot of change becomes very obvious when you understand the limiting beliefs you have about yourself. And then also because your beliefs are going to be very similar to everybody else's, it starts to become obvious. And so most people gravitate towards, I know what's going to happen and I'm quote unquote safe. And that doesn't actually mean safe, like actually safe. It's like those people who say, like the old guys in the plant, there's always one. They hate their job. They talk about the whole day, they grumble. And yet they're not looking for another job and they're not looking to quit. And so you're like, why do they do that? And it's because coming in and doing that is safe and they can kind of understand what's going to happen every day.
Yeah, those miserable guys. Miserable. Hey, Barry. Yeah, I understand. So, with that sense of a shared experience, like for instance, a few years ago, we started in Australia a thing called "Are You OK" Day, where you'd ring someone up and say, "G'day, mate, are you okay?" And give them that window to talk. Is there a process that you would suggest within the workplace to get that conversation going should someone be struggling?
Totally. That's really the psychological safety piece. And it's very much, I mean, it's all grounded in the same stuff. So there was a study out of Australia with the construction industry where they said they were looking at basically the suicide or mental health prevention programs. And they were saying like, what's going on? Because we still have basically a suicide in construction every other day. And they looked at 100 men who committed suicide, and 93 out of 100 did not ask for help before they did it.
Yeah.
So it was not the program. It was the fact that nobody felt safe enough to say, hey, I need help.
Okay. So how do you change that mindset?
That's where, as a leader, and this leader at work, at home, in your community, with your friends, it doesn't matter. It's really about crafting deep connection and opening space for folks, because like there's not a lot of people who talk like I do about mental health. It took a lot of work to get there. But it's like I now, by me talking about it, like literally after I did my talk, there were people who came up to me and shared their problems and shared that they struggle too. And hopefully it helped them get help that they needed.
Yeah.
And that's the vulnerability and the connection piece.
So is that difficult for you when people come to you and share, like, you're almost like a download rod, and it's you tell your story and then people come and share their stories. How does that weigh on you personally?
It's the reason why I actually do it.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a huge problem. I was there. I suffered from it. And I want folks to feel safe enough to ask for help because I didn't.
Okay. So Rob, you didn't say this in your talk and you don't have to answer it now if you don't want to. What was it that actually brought you back?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first go around with help was actually not helpful for me.
Okay.
So in 2013, it was 9 months after I was depressed, I reached out to a friend of mine. She was a social worker, and she's like, "Go to the hospital, like get some help." So I did that, got medication, and the mental health medication, it's very hit or miss. And at the time, there was no genetic testing to allow for like actual science. It was just sort of like, oh, we prescribed this one, so let's prescribe it and see what happens. So they did that. And actually, I suffered from a lot of what's super common is that they actually make you worse. And so that happened to me for a while. And then basically I quit asking for help because I was like, well, it's not working.
Okay.
And then about 6 years later, I started opening up the emotions and I needed the help. And so I went back, and then I was a little more deliberate and choosy about who I asked from.
Okay.
And then I went to a real psychiatrist. I had seen psychiatrists, but I found a great psychiatrist and I found a great psychologist. And those were really the pieces that really helped me, was getting a psychiatrist who does genetic testing, who looks at science, is on everything new. Every time I go, he gives me a new research paper on something. He was the one who gave me the medication that literally saved my life. And then my psychologist did all the trauma work. And she's also like incredible, takes a new training course all the time. Like, it's finding those folks that are really, like you said, they're the ones doing the work.
Yeah. Okay. When you said that, you decided you were going to take your life. So what stopped you from doing that? Like, did you get to the precipice and then have an epiphany that, dude, what are you doing? Or again, is this part of this longer process?
So my attempt was very much like most survivors.
Yeah.
It's not very, or even people who actually end up taking their lives. It wasn't a plan. I didn't have it all mapped out. I mean, I did, but that was not the reason that went through it. It just was a combination of like tons of drinking and like stuff happening that day and just being alone and like all that stuff that sort of just, it kind of just happened. And there was no moment where I was like, oh, I'm going to do it now. It was none of that.
Okay. Right. So what about in the workplace? Let's go back to that, because it seems like we're spending half our life actually at work with other people. How would you go about if you wanted to try and implement something where you work? How would you go about doing that? Or what would your advice be to get something started, whether it's a talking point or a program?
Totally. And these are the challenging questions in our industry, right? And for me, it's all about you and your relationships with other people, right? And like the technical stuff's great, and you can get, all the training courses from whoever. Shout out to ARMS.
Yeah.
Right? They can teach you all the nuts and bolts, right? It's all about connection and then understanding, like, what are people truly looking for? They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to feel like they're making a difference. They want to feel like they're getting somewhere, right? And it's those types of things that really help you mobilize them towards a goal.
Okay. So how do we set that up?
Yeah, that's the work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's very much like you actually have to talk to people. You have to build relationships. And I know it's a weird thing to say to a bunch of engineers.
Yeah.
But it's like one of my leaders. So she works at a big tech company, and she runs a group of like 50 people. And her ultimate goal in life is to run her own hotel. And so when we work on her leadership, it's basically the same as how she would lead someone on her team. It's what skills can you build today that leads you to 20 years from now running a hotel? And it's completely different industry, completely different. Like she's like basically some sort of network expert, right? But it's like you can do that with your people too. You just have to open the space for them to tell you like, hey, I don't want to work in coal mining for the next 50 years. Like I want to do whatever, and then help them build to that place.
Okay. Do you have somewhere that you're headed? Like, do you have a specific idea of where you're going now? I mean, like, I know you've got Rob's Reliability Project podcast. You're doing leadership. You've done the maintenance work. So you're clearly transitioning to other things. Do you have a place that you're headed?
Totally. And it's all the leadership work. And for me, it's really, I want to change how leadership's done globally. And because I think just as you, it's like that 2/3 of leaders are destructive in some way is insane. And the other stat is that most people are supervisors for 12 years before they get leadership training. Like it's like for all the engineers out there, they did not let you do engineering before you had an engineering degree and took some advice and did something. But for some reason, we think like, hey, you're a person, you breathe, you're a leader now.
Yeah, right. So just on those numbers, that would suggest that companies think people earn the right to get leadership training. Like you can, it's not like it should ideally should probably start really early, as opposed to, geez, Michael, you've done a great job for 10 years in your supervisor's role. We're going to give you a leadership course.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? And we do get a few individual contributors who are basically like, my next job is, they're setting them up for their first team lead job. Mm-hmm. But it is that. It's like literally, I have a guy in one of our leadership groups, and he runs an organization of 600 people. And it's like, now you're getting the training?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I suppose is it a case of better late than never?
Yes. I mean, you should always get it. It's just, you're right, as organizations need to plan and develop their people, which I know it costs money, but it pays off.
Okay. Is there a single mentor that you've really loved working with, or someone who's really changed your life?
Yeah, my current boss. She was the one who taught me what leadership could be. And now we work together. She co-hosts the Leadership Launchpad Project podcast with me. And yeah, we're really trying to innovate what leadership training looks like. Like recently, we're looking to partner with the Internal Family Systems Institute to bring in some extra real deep psychology into the work that we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might scare people off. The deep psychology. I mean, I know when you said everyone should talk to someone, that, sort of as middle-aged males, or, either past that or coming into it, that the thought of that therapy could be challenging.
It is. And I totally understand it. Now, I want to change that question a little bit. Mm-hmm. 95 to 97% of the thoughts and decisions you make are subconscious. You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you go to the bathroom, get a coffee, walk the dog, right? You're not really consciously going, where should I take the dog this morning? Or, that kind of stuff. It just sort of happens. And those 95% of those decisions, right, are either pushing you towards you want to go, or they're pulling you away from where you want to go. And by architecting your mindset, you can align those 95% to the person you want to become and the place you want to go. And that's where you're actually going to get huge results.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Rob. Hey, is there a mantra that you live by? Something that you put on the, I was going to say right on the mirror in the steam every morning. Rob, you're the best.
No, I don't really have one, but what I've sort of come down to is that there's two things that are my values that guide me now. And one is the pursuit of wisdom, and the other is to make a greater impact.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I try to do every day.
Hey, listen, Rob, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for your time. And as I said, you've got the Rob's Reliability Project podcast.
So that one doesn't exist anymore, just so you know.
But they're still there, though. The episodes are still there.